What's up guys, it's Josh back with another video, and today I want to show you guys how to set up a jitsi-meet server. So as I stated in the intro of the video, I want to show you guys how to set up a jitsi-meet server. And essentially what Jitsi is a open source video conferencing application based on WebRTC. And a jitsi-meet server will allow you to have a multi-person video conferencing room that you can access from your browser, similar to Zoom and Google Meets. And one cool thing about Jitsi conferences is that the data is on your personal server. So wherever you set this up, this is where the data will pass through. So you don't have to worry about one of these big corporations snooping on your meetings, possibly recording these interactions that you have with people. It could be business meetings and all that. And it also offers end-to-end TLS encryption to accomplish this. And so like I stated, this is a way of setting up a private server that'll allow you to conduct those conferences or meetings. And within this video, I'm gonna walk you guys through how to set up one of these servers on your own personal cloud. Okay, before we get started, I want to show you where you can actually get the application from, or mainly just to show you guys their website. But this is jitsi.org and then /jitsi-meets. And of course, I'll have the link down in the description of the video where you can go right to the page, look at the documentation, as well as check out everything about this open source project. Now, one thing I forgot to explain in the beginning is that Jitsi is what Brave actually pulled to use as their conferencing application as well. So you guys know the Brave browser. I did a video on it not that long ago showing you guys how to get it installed on Ubuntu 22.04. Well, they took this project and actually used it to create their own conferencing technology. So it's super dope, you know what I'm saying, that someone or a big business or a big corporation is actually using this open source technology in order to create, you know, a video conferencing solution for anyone that signs up for their service. And again, I can't say it enough, but it's free and open source, so anyone can actually take it and modify it, you know, and change it and use it to their likings in order to manage their own video conferencing server. And just to check out a little bit on the site, it says free video conferencing solution. Go ahead, video chat with the whole team. In fact, invite everyone you know. jitsi-meet is fully encrypted, 100% open source video conferencing solution that you can use all day, every day for free with no account needed. And that's one cool thing about it. You can create a meeting and invite any and everybody to it. It's similar to, you know, like StreamYard, Zoom. You could share out those links. It's just as simple to use as that. Once you get it set up, it's very simple to use. And then this just gives you a little bit more of the information about it. You can check out the documentation of Jitsi. It walks you through how to set it up, the architecture, all that good stuff. And then also, if we go back to the main page, they do have a blog, they do have a community that you can go to. So blog, they basically give you updates on where they're going with the project, so definitely check that out, as well as the community or forum board where you can ask questions, you know, and there's a lot of answered questions on the forum board that can help you out if you run into any issues setting this thing up. Now, as I stated, I'm gonna set this thing up on Ubuntu 22.04. So let's hop over to our virtual machine in the cloud so we can get this thing set up and running, and then I can show you guys how to set up a meeting and we can get going with the actual application. Okay guys, so just so you know, I set up my own virtual machine within the cloud. I'm using Linode as a service today. This is the server that I set up on within their infrastructure. That's the IP addresses. Don't worry about it trying to get to this server, because it'll be deleted once I upload this video, so you guys won't even be able to see, you know, this IP address or anything like that, or see this server up in action, because I'm gonna go down and remove it. But this is where we're going to set up our Jitsi server. And I've already logged into the server. I've created accounts, I've updated the system, so I wanted to get right into the installation of Jitsi. So switch over to my terminal, and as you can see, I'm logged into this server. Let me scroll up a little bit so you guys can see, but that is that same IP address. That's what I'm logged into, and as you can see, it's Ubuntu 22.04 LTS, and I just created this thing like literally minutes ago. And then one other prerequisite when it comes to setting up a Jitsi server, you need to have a domain name. So if you want to roll over to like Google Domains or one of those domain providers, GoDaddy, whatever you want to use, just go down and create your domain over there, or buy a domain, and then create like what I typically do is create a subdomain. And let's switch back over to my browser so you guys can kind of see what I did. But I created, and this site is not going to come up, but as you can see, you should be able to see the domain that I'm trying to get to. It's jitsi and then .keepitechie.com, and I have that IP address for that domain within the DNS records pointed to this newly created server. That's why it's not showing anything, because there is nothing on the server. I don't even think I have the firewall set up and configured properly in order to get to it. That's why it's essentially blocking it. But let's hop over back to my terminal so we can go through the install. And this is a pretty detailed install. It's not going to take that long, but it's a lot of commands, so I'll do a lot of copy paste. But I'll go down and create a document with all these commands that I'm running so you guys can follow along. And I might put it in the description of the video. We'll see. Sometimes when I don't put the description in there, or the things in the description, the commands in there, it's because Google tends to block certain like text within the description of the video. It kind of looks as it is code or something to that effect, especially when it's a lot of different commands with, you know, forward slashes and the quotes and all that stuff. It kind of looks at it like you're trying to write code within there, so it'll block some of that text and it won't allow it to be put in there. So to the guys that have been complaining, basically saying, oh, you don't put anything in the description of the video like you say, and the reason why is because of that reason. And so that's why I created a website, so you can check that out as well. But it's docs.keepitechie.com, and that's where I have a lot of the documentation, and I'm starting to catch up and put certain documentation up there so you guys can kind of follow along, and I'll start having links to those in the description, to the articles themselves in the description with all the commands, so you guys can follow along with me in the video. Now let's get to it. Okay, so the first step we need to do is set up our system hostname. Very simple command. Let's go down and type it in, but it's sudo hostname, and this is a built-in, you know, application. So hostname ctl, and then we want to set dash hostname, and what we want to set it to is our domain, which is the jitsi.keepitechie.com. And so we're good. Just make sure you spell it correctly. You can obviously go back and change this, or go in and change this, but you want to go down and do it right the first time. So just put in your domain. So like I stated earlier, I have a subdomain for this called jitsi.keepitechie.com. So let's go down and press enter, and that'll set our host name for the system. And the way to check it is simply by typing host name, and that will give us out our host name right there, and you'll see it says jitsi.keepitechie.com. So we're good to go. Now let's go down and modify our host, which is the IP address of our server. Basically want to go in and add our host name or our IP address and tie it to our host name. So let's type sudo nano, and this is under etc directory, and then host with an S. Press enter. Boom. We could drop down right here and go on and go back to our site, and you guys can't see me doing that, but I'm just basically grabbing the IP address, and then let's hit tab and type jitsi.keepitechie KeepItTechie.com. Boom. And then we can save that. Just make sure you type it correctly. Again, you know, you want to always make sure you type this stuff correctly, and we're good to go. So all we have to do is hit Control X, and this will save, you know, our changes to that host file, and we are good to go. Now the next step is to configure our firewall, which is super simple. There is an application that manages the firewall on Ubuntu 22.04 called UFW. It's called Uncomplicated Firewall. And so this application kind of sits on top of IP tables, which actually controls the firewall, but it makes it simple to use by making the commands a whole lot easier to run. So first thing, you want to open up traffic for SSH. That's the easiest thing. Well, that's actually the first thing you want to do. So if we type sudo UFW allow, and let's open up open SSH, and that's the actual service name. So H, and then press enter, and that'll open up port 22 on our server. Now we have a couple other ports we need to open up, but I want to at least focus in on this one. This is something that you really need to do in order to get into your server, because if you do not allow traffic for open SSH, then if you log out of this connection, or if you get kicked out of this connection, then you won't be able to log into the server once we activate the firewall. Because right now the firewall is not on, it's not activated, it's not enabled. But once we enable it, and if you have port 22 blocked, then it won't let you back onto the server, and you essentially have to go in to whatever cloud provider you got and possibly rebuild that server, you know what I'm saying, in order to get back into it. So let's open up our other ports, and all I'm gonna do is hit the up arrow, and that will take us back to what we just typed, and let's type in the other ports. So we need port 80, which is the standard port for HTTP traffic. And then that's a TCP, you know, connection. So let's press enter. Boom, we'll add that rule. And now we need to add 443, which is for our SSL cert. So 443 is the standard port for a SSL connection. So let's press enter. Boom, that'll add that rule. And then there's a couple other ports we need to add. Two of them are UDP. So let's change this to UDP. And then the port number is 3478, and press enter. Boom, that'll add that port. And then let's go to the other UDP port, and that's 10,000, and press enter. Boom. And then we have another TCP port, so TCP, and that last port we need to open up is 5349, and press enter. That'll open up that port as well. Now let's go on and enable our firewall. It's simple command. So sudo UFW enable, and press enter. And this is what I meant right there. As you can see right there, when you enable the firewall, it says command may disrupt existing SSH connection. Proceed with this operation, yes or no. It's basically a warning that if you don't have that port open, which I know we have that port open for SSH, it's gonna keep our connection, you know, we're gonna stay connected to it because we have that port open. But if you don't have that port open and you type Y, you know, and yes, you may lose the connection altogether, and you'll lose access to the server because that port will be closed at that point. But as you can see, it says firewall is active and enabled on system startup. So the firewall will come up every time the system boots up. And then also we can check our ports by typing sudo UFW, then status, and press enter, and they'll give us the status of our firewall. As you can see, it's active, and then here are all the ports that we allowed on the system. So we're good to go. We got all our ports open that we need in order to get our GC server up and going. So let's go on and move on to the next step. Now it's time to install Jitsi, and the first thing we need to do is a couple different steps. Let's go down and clear right fast so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. But the first thing we need to do is download our GPG keys for the Jitsi server that we're going to add the repository from. So let's press enter. Boom. it'll download our GPG key. That'll allow us to have a connection. It'll verify that we're getting the information from the right connection. Now let's add the GPG key to the system. Boom. That'll add that key to us. Now let's go down and create our sources list. And it's very simple. All we have to do is create a file with the Jitsi server name on it, so Jitsi stable. And like I said, I'm gonna paste all this stuff in. You can follow along if you want to, but I'm essentially tell you what I'm doing. I'm basically creating a file under our sources list. This is how you add a repository to your Ubuntu server. So let's press enter, and so that creates that file that I was talking about. Now we need to add the repository location. So let's go down and like I said, I have all this stuff I'm copying, but essentially that is the location. It's going to use that key that we have and all that. So let's go down and save this file. Boom. That'll create our sources list. So we're good to go. We have added that. Now there is a dependency for Jitsi. Essentially there's another application that allows for you to chat within the background of the actual meeting. So you know how a lot of times in Zoom you'll have that little chat box on the side. You can type with people that are in the meeting, or you can say like, I'll be back in 15 minutes or so, in the background. Well, it's an application called Prosody, and it's an open source XMPP chat server. It allows for those messagings. So let's go down and add that repository as well right fast, so we can get that going, or get that installed on the system as well. So let's add the key first. Boom. Download the key, and essentially what that's doing is curling it down to the system. Now we need to add it to our system. Boom. That'll add it to our system. Now let's go down and create that repository file again. It's in the same location under our sources.list.d, and press enter. And then all we have to do is add that repository location to our system, and let's just paste that on up in there. Boom. That's the server name, and it looks short right now, but let's go back to the front. As you can see, it's a long line, so it kind of rolls to the right, and you won't see the rest of it, but that's the full line right there. So all we have to do is save this file. Boom, boom, we are good to go. Now the next thing you want to do after adding repositories is essentially check for updates on the system, and that essentially refreshes all the repositories that have been added to the system, as well as the current repositories. So let's just type sudo apt update and press enter. Like I said, that'll refresh it. You'll see those repositories popping up in here. You'll see it's hitting the Jitsi server and the Prosody server as well, as you can see right there. So we're good to go. Now all we have to do is essentially install jitsi-meet, and simple command sudo apt is just like installing any other application on Ubuntu. So sudo apt install jitsi-meet, and that's the package name. So press enter. They'll go through and install everything for us on the server. It may take a little while. I think it's one pop-up I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, and you basically have to add the host name. So all we have to do is type jitsi, same host name we typed into our host file. So jitsi.keepittekey.com. Boom. Make sure you type it in correctly. Hit the tab button. They'll take you down to the OK button. Press enter, and then the next thing it'll ask you about the SSL cert. What it's going to do is generate a self-signed certification, for right now, but you can add another cert later on. So I just wanted you guys to know that that's what it'll do. So we could just tab that out, press OK, and it'll go through the install process, and I'll be back when this actually finishes. All right, so Jitsi is fully installed on the server, but there is some configuration that we need to do. So let me go down and show you guys how to do that. All right, now let's clear this screen, and there is a couple configuration files that you want to edit. So let's type sudo nano, and then under the etc directory, if we go to Prosody, there's a directory under there, and then conf.available, and then let's just tab it out and just see what's in there. Yeah, so jitsi.keepittekey.com nano.conf.lua. So let's press enter. That's the actual file. So this will show whatever domain that you put in here. So whatever your domain is, it'll generate this file during the installation. So just want to let you guys know you will have a file in here, configuration file. So just press enter. It'll take us into our configuration file that we need to edit. And essentially what we're looking for is the authentication, because we kind of want to lock this thing down, and we don't want to allow anonymous users to create conference rooms. And one thing you could do within Nano, if you didn't know, you can hold the control button or control key and then W. And if you guys have any issues or problems, any questions about Nano, I did create a video showing you guys how to fully use Nano, but you can search within the text file. So control W, and then we can type in our search term. And what we're looking for is authentication, and press enter. And I'll find that authentication line. So what we're looking for is, or what we want to do is actually change this from anonymous to internal plain. So let me back this off right fast, the anonymous, and type in internal, and it's all lowercase, underscore plain. Boom. So that's essentially what we want to do. We want to make sure the authentication is not anonymous. Essentially, so by putting internal plain, that will make sure the authentication is needed in order to create a conference room, as well as, you know, join one. And then within this same file, let's go down and go to the end of the file, and because we need to add one thing at the bottom right fast, and I already created it, but it's essentially a virtual host information for the guest link, and you want to go down and add this. And let's paste this down in there. You guys will see it in a second, but essentially what we're adding is the guest link. And let's scroll up a little bit because I want to push this down a little bit just to make it separate from above, but that's fine. Essentially that's what you need to add: virtual host, and then you want to put your URL in there, and this is for the guest link. And this configuration basically allows any user to join a conference room that an authenticated user created. However, the guest must use this unique, URL and an optional password to enter it. So that'll allow guests to actually get into it. So let's hit Control X and then Y, and that will save that configuration, those changes that we made to that configuration file. Now we need to open up another one. So let's type sudo nano, and then under the etc directory, there is a jitsi directory. And what we're looking for is meets. It's another directory called meets, and then I'm gonna just tab it out. That should bring up that configuration for us, and or at least get us close to it. But dash config, that's the one we're looking for. Boom.js. So let's press enter. Open that up for us, and let's search for something else. So control W, and what we're looking for is anonymous again. So let's type anonymous domain, and that's the line that we're actually looking for. So press enter. That'll find it for us. Yeah, and essentially what we're doing is adding our URL to it, and then also uncommenting this out. So uncomment that out, go in here, and this is where we add our link again for the guest users. So guest.jitsi.keepitechie.com. So good to go right there. That's all we have to pretty much add right there, and that will essentially tell jitsi-meets what internal host name to use for unauthenticated guests. That's essentially what it's for. So let's go down and hit Control X, and let's go down and save our changes to that configuration file. Now let's go to the zip configurator, and this is, I believe it's in somewhat of the same directory, but it's under Jitsi and then JI Kofo, and we have to actually create this file, but it's essentially, and what I'm gonna do is copy it from my notes here and drop it in there. But that's essentially what we need: zip-communicator.properties, and press enter. And I already have the information in my notes, so let's get over here and copy it right fast. And let's paste that in there. Hit Control X, Y to save it. Boom. So we got our SIP communicator in there. So now that we got it fully configured, the only people that can create a meeting on the server, it has to be a registered user. So essentially we have to create a user. So this is one more command that we have to run. Let me clear right fast so you guys can see just that command, but sudo and then prosody ctl and then register. And then what you want to do is create a user. So I'm gonna type Josh and then jitsi-meet.keepittechie.com, and then we need to create a password. So I'm gonna do PASSWORD1234. Boom, and I capitalized the P and the A. So let's go and press enter. That'll be a super strong password for us. I believe this is correct. You should see this warning. It says general warning. Lua has several issues. Support is being phased out. Consider upgrading. Okay, so that's just a simple warning. Don't worry about it. You should. I remember seeing that last time I created one of these, so it should be fine. Now let's go down and restore all our services. And essentially, I had them all written out, but prosody, then Jai Kofo, and then the Jitsi Video Bridge service. So let's go down and press enter. That'll restore all those services for us. And now we can go down and go to our URL. So I switch back over to our browser, and then let's go down and refresh the sites. And what it's going to do with a self-signed cert, it's basically going to say your connection is not private, which is fine. You just hit proceed. Now you can create a new cert for the system just for this URL, you know what I'm saying, using the cert byte. I didn't want to make the, well, I kind of did make the video long, but I just took that out to kind of save time. But this is essentially the server for you, and all you have to do is hit start meeting, and you can create a room. You know, you can name that room or whatever it is. Let's just say test meeting. Boom, hit start meeting. Boom. And then you want to, you know, obviously allow the use of your microphone, camera, you know, all that good stuff. I'm gonna hit allow. It may not work properly, but essentially it's gonna ask you, it's saying it's waiting for the host, but I am the host. So let's hit I am the host. And then what you want to do is type in your account that you created. So let's just type Josh, and then let's type in our password, which was that capital PASSWORD1234, and hit log in, and that'll log us into the server. All right, cool. So it says you are now a moderator. So this is essentially, you know, a good meeting, and it's pulling in my audio, but it's not going to pull in my video because I'm currently recording right now. But essentially, you know, this is a meeting. It's got a timer up here. You can run this meeting as long as you want to, you know what I'm saying, and use this server as long as you want to, you know. And then one thing I want to show you guys, like I said, it's kind of like Zoom. You got your microphone settings, you got your camera settings, you can share a screen that's on there. You can open up the chat. Let's open that up, and you can type in, you know, whatever your nickname is for the chat. Let's go down and close that, and then you can raise and lower your hand. Now that's, you know, pretty cool. That's something that you see in Zoom. So if you got a question, you know, raise, lower your hand. Add participants. Now this is the important part. This is how you want to get more people into your meeting. So you just hit participants. You can invite someone via email address. You can add breakout rooms, and actually let's hit the invite. So you can copy the link to the actual meeting, send it to people. Share meeting invitation. You can copy, you can email, you know, Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo Mail, some of the defaults that are in there. You just hit the share meeting invitation. You can also embed the link somewhere, so you can put it on a, I don't know, somewhere and just share it so people can connect to it. But let's go down and close that. But that's essentially how you invite. You can mute people. So I'm already in the room, so I can't mute me, but as a moderator you have those options to do that. You can mute all, add a breakout room, put people in that room, you know, all that good stuff. Now let's go down and close this out, but those are those options. You know, you can modify the view. This is the tile view, and they got other views, you know, in there. Let's hit and see what's under here, which is your options. So you got security options. You can record, start live stream, so you can connect to a live stream application. You can share the video, you can share the audio, select background, speaker stats, settings, you know, embed the meeting, essentially your links and stuff right there. But you do have some more settings. Let's look in here and see what it is. But microphone settings, you know, test sound, you can test your audio, profiles, moderators, sounds, more, you know, all that good stuff under there. Let's go back under here again, but full screen performance settings. So you can modify those performance settings, because you might want to look into that, because you'll be running this on your own server, and a lot of times when you're, you know, doing meetings like this, it's using a lot of bandwidth, especially if you have multiple people, multiple locations, uploading and downloading, you know, from your one server on, you know, in the cloud. So the price of your server could potentially go up, you know what I'm saying? So be careful with it, you know what I'm saying? That's mainly what I wanted to say. You know, with the video and all that stuff, you can essentially do a lot with just talking, you know, by setting up these meetings. But once you start incorporating video, you know, 1080p, all that good stuff, then you may run into, you know, this thing costing a little money. But if you're only using this, let's say for a project or something you're working on with a couple people, and it's best to, you know, show and share what you're actually working on, or, you know, whatever the status of that project is, you know what I'm saying, and then everybody could chip in, you know, on this server, you know, keeping this server up and going, so you guys can have a way, instead of, you know, using Zoom or one of those big organizations to run your stuff through, you can run it through your own private server. So it's super cool application. I recommend you check it out, because I know it's beneficial to a lot of people to actually use something like this, or at least know how to set up one of these. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave comments down in the comments below. And of course, keep it techie.